It is a narrative-heavy survival game with a Fallout Shelter base expansion builder in it. You play Jan Dalski, who's crash-landed on this alien planet and's got to move his giant wheel base across the surface to avoid the deadly radiation of the impending sunrise. The survival game genre is something I play a lot of, and it's been quite prolific and kind of invasive in the last decade. We're seeing survival mechanics in a lot of other genres. We've just played a lot of Dune Awakening, and there's a lot of survival in that. Monster Hunter Wilds has a lot of survival mechanics. And now we're seeing a science fiction narrative game with survival mechanics as the core gameplay. There is a significant time crunch in this game, which gives the whole thing a sense of urgency. The sun is about to rise, so as opposed to getting in the comfortable grind set, you're constantly thinking about moving to the next area. You got to just keep on moving. There's constant drive forwards from the narrative and the sun coming up, and there's limited exploration in each of the acts. The game is broken into acts, and each act has its own area.
Sure.
And these areas don't have a vast exploration. They're quite linear, and it's really about choosing which resources to mine and how much of it you're going to need for the kind of expansion you're doing of your base and the people that you have in your base. The new workers that you bring in, that's kind of not a new concept in a management survival sim like this, where you get the bonus of having another worker to produce more resources, but the trade-off is that they consume a lot of resources as well. So that's not unusual in these kinds of games. The unusual thing here is that every new worker you bring in is an alternate version of you, which is where the ALTERS comes from. So there is a quantum computer on your wheel ship, on your transport device, and that allows you to search through your DNA into alternate versions of you in space-time, where you've made different Gwyneth Paltrow-style sliding doors decisions on what to become or how to live your life. So there's a version of you that
didn't get on the train,
fought back against his father, didn't get on the train,
that did get cancelled on a Twitch
and now
stream.
has an egg inside them. It's made of jade. But
inside egg, yeah.
There's a version of you that left home young and and pursued science and became a scientist. There's a version of you that became a botanist. There's a version of you that is a mining engineer, and so you can choose based on tiers, so they're not all available at the start, but you can choose the tier 1s at the start, and then you progress, you can choose the tier 2s, and give yourself options of 6 choices per tier of how you want to progress and what resources you think are the most important. It does give you a mechanic to help you fix your ship, and the next logical choice is the scientist for research. So you kind of will start in the same way on most playthroughs of this game. And it's not a roguelike. You don't just reset, but you might choose to go back in time in your saves a few days if you've made some decisions, because you can move through days really quickly. As soon as you start doing anything related to the survival mechanics, it takes time, but it speeds through it. So it might take 3 hours to mine a resource. It happens in 10 seconds, but you spent most of a day getting ore for whatever purpose. And so that's a choice you've made, and it may be the wrong one if you get hit by solar radiation on the next morning and you can't go out and you're desperate for food. So there's reasons to kind of save scum a little bit, but there's a fail state. You can die. And one of those fail states is the sun rises. Another is the ALTERS rebel against you. You need to spend a bunch of your time in this game managing the relationships with other versions of yourself.
Hell yeah.
Which fucking rocks. It's actually the most interesting thing about this game. Despite it all is aesthetically sick, and it all feels cool and ominous and dire. But then you're like, I need to play beer pong with the mechanic because he's getting the shits, and we need to do something to lift the mood, and we're gonna all sit around and watch a 3-hour film at the end of the night, and everyone's
it's over in 10 seconds.
Spirits, exactly. Yeah, you can watch the movies that are in there, but you can skip it, and you just raise the spirits of everyone. But there's so much of it is about managing the relationships between yourself, and there's like reasonable cutscenes that happen as you interact with each other. I'll get Josh to show you a clip in a second. I do just want to point out some things that I feel like that might put some people off this game, because the mining and resource collection is like really transactional rather than creative. Yeah. I really like a Valheim where you're like, oh, I'm not gonna cut down these trees because it's important for the aesthetic of where I'm building, but because you move so much in this game and because the nodes of resources are set and limited, you don't really make decisions about how you go about it. You just choose when you're mining and when you're not mining a specific resource, which is kind of like it takes away a little bit of the autonomy of the survival mechanics. But this game isn't really about that. But it was a little bit of a learning curve for me to be like, oh, I kind of am not involved in that process as much as I am in other games. And you can automate it by sending your other workers to go and do that stuff for you as well. But yeah, that's really the only thing, like niggling thing that I have a problem with. And the other thing is it feels pretty AA in some areas. It feels really AAA in a lot of spaces. But yeah, it is really beautiful. But it manages to be beautiful by being really limited and small. And it's really restrictive. I just came off the back of Dune and I'm grappling up the sides of mountains, and here, like, I hit a little rock and I stop and I'm running on the spot. That kind of stuff that feels a little bit like, I don't know, it just makes you so aware of how linear and small the space is, the play space is. But again, it's big enough that it can feel like you're traveling enough distance as the sun's kind of rising and you're just racing back to the base, and it makes the whole thing feel dire. And
how well does it juggle? Like we've played games in the past couple of years that really thrive in this kind of 2 games in one, or they play off each other, kind of like Cult of the Lamb. It's like you have a town management and you have these fun runs, and they often do that thing which is like just as you get tired of one, you move back into the other and back and forth. Does it handle that well here in terms of the management cross the exploration and mining, or did you find you favored one over the other?
It's just really well balanced.
Okay.
The purpose of this game is the narrative, and it's interesting enough that you want to see it through. It's kind of like everything else is you are rallying against to just make sure that the story continues. You know, everything's trying to kill you, and the purpose of it is to do just enough.
But there's no like combat or anything.
There's no combat. There's
just orbs.
There's orbs. Yeah, there's floating orbs that you can burn down and they become a resource. There's alien anomaly stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But to be fair, I'm not at the end of the game. Maybe you do get attacked by something, but there's not been in any of the skill trees building out weaponry.
Yeah.
But there is, like, you do choose, when you've got a scientist, you can choose what you want to research in what order. And so you're making a lot of decisions. And I think there's good replayability in the workers that you choose to pull out of the quantum computer, and the paths that you choose to skill up in order to succeed.
I guess but sorry, you go.
You're always the main guy.
Yep.
You never take control of the alter guys.
No. You assign them jobs, you interact with them to make sure that they're happy, but you never play as them.
So the fail state is if the main guy dies and the rest are expendable, kind of?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
and that's even part of the story as well. It's called the Dolly Project, the mission that you're on, and it's alluding to the sheep, the cloned sheep. The first thing. Sorry?
Not the pardon.
Not the pardon. Yeah, you don't go around singing country
One
tunes.
day we'll clone Dolly.
They're all humming 9 to 5 as they're mining.
Way to make a
We're back on
living.
my dreams.
Yeah, it's like I'm at the 3rd act, which is a more hostile environment to traverse as well. I'm upgrading my suit to make sure that I can do it, and everything becomes a little trickier, but it becomes more challenging to send just workers out because they're not wearing the same gear you are. And
Right.
So there's a bunch of choices constantly, and I have gone back. I jumped back 10 days at one point because I was like, Well, I failed. I got killed by my alters. They killed me in my sleep because they
Wow.
fucking
Yeah, that
hated
checks
me.
out.
Yeah.
Can you romance?
Oh my God, I was gonna ask
your
the same
alters?
I don't
And
know.
is
We
it-
were all thinking it.
Is it
Daddy, may I?
is it gay or is it masturbation?
It would be masturbation.
Okay.
I've thought a lot about this.
Yeah, no,
That was a quick answer.
that was
You're
really
like,
I've
quick
thought a
and
lot
really
about this.
definitive.
You said that so quick.
Yeah.
I also disagree, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
You've also thought a lot about this. But I haven't encountered any romancing, but there is a lot of you all have a wife.
Oh,
So that you,
just
that-
one wife?
Well, you've all
Everyone, my
you-
wife.
in
Everyone
most
together.
My wife.
in most
wife.
Our
wives.
Our wives.
In most instances of yarns, they have a can't remember her name. My wife, the same woman that they met incidentally in their past,
But
in their
not
lives.
in the station.
Not in the station and not in this reality.
Yeah,
You
'cause
basically
you're cloning
the,
ones
the,
that-
the science the science of it. The concept is that these people existed in alternate realities. You're able to, through the quantum computer and your DNA,
make
absorb their consciousness and get them printed into a new body. So
Just
it's not
like real
you're-
life.
Yeah.
Just like real life.
Yeah.
You're not pulling them out of an alternate reality. You're pulling the conscious state that they would have been in so the quantum computer makes all the decisions. You gotta listen. You gotta listen. This makes sense.
It's all getting a bit
But does that mean
Ant-Man.
do they have some existential crisis when they realize that
Yeah.
the thing that they
And that they're
I
not
reckon
real.
probably,
yeah.
Absolutely. And that they're not real.
And-
They are not the version of yarn that exists in this universe.
but they have
And-
memories of what the
and they're
quantum
like, this
computer-
isn't my body, but I am.
Are
the
there
quantum
any
computer-
alters that are a womyan?
Not that I've encountered, no.
So hang on,
Sad.
they're all cloned personalities of the person that still exists elsewhere
Yes.
at that time.
Yeah, but like that theoretically exists because do alternate universes exist?
So-
they don't really play with that in this so far. It's more that they have the computing power to assume based on this person's DNA, they've got only your DNA, that had you made X, Y, Z decisions in your past, you would have become this person. We can create that
the
consciousness.
computer can build the brain of that person basically.
and put
The
them
clone
and
is
print them
you.
into your and put them into a body that is yours effectively.
But do we know that that person actually exists in another universe?
no.
I mean, we're getting in the weeds.
We're
here,
getting in the weeds.
but-
So are they at the
yes,
same
because
time.
because
Yeah.
there's
Literally
yes because there's
arguing.
infinite versions of reality. So one of these people would
So
exist.
is it a race to get
theoretically.
back to the wife and the winner get like the one person
Winner
You're
who
gets
trying to
the
get
wife.
home. No,
Yeah.
it's not winner gets wife. There's a side. Well, there's a bit of a subplot that's like, because you're communicating with the people that own this spaceship
Yep.
and the people that sent you on this mission, and there's that's the tension of the narrative. But it's like you're constantly asking, when I get back, what happens to my alters? Because you're becoming friends with them, and they're like, we'll work that out. And it's like, they're gonna
Yeah.
just put a bolt
Watch
through
this
their head.
space.
Yeah.
I really
They're
hope
gonna go the
they-
way of the sheep.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can tell you're enjoying it and you want to probably get to the end. Mainly, a big part would be to see how they handle that as from a narrative perspective.
Again, yeah, I think like all of the mechanics of it work really well, but it is a narrative sci-fi game
Yeah.
as the driving factor.
I love that for any of the game as well that could feel like repetitive, or the mining stuff. If that ever did start to feel a bit like, oh, this is just the meat and...
Yeah, you just go back to base, kiss yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that you're compelled
Print a
enough to
new
go
version
like,
of yourself, kiss
Yeah.
them.
I'm compelled
Oh.
enough to do that mundane mining because I want to work out, I want to get back to this stuff and I want to see where this story's going.
And the whole time you're thinking that all these interactions are so fascinating because I chose to print that guy. This guy doesn't have to be in this cutscene.
That's crazy.
I could have printed...
Oh my God.
You can tell from that
I
one
could have
guy in the
printed
back.
but like that's the replayability to me is like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to do narratively this is going to play out the same plot happens,
are there
but
any
there's going
that
to be
are like-
different voices,
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
opinions, different consciousnesses.
voice actor, though,
Same voice
presumably.
actor.
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
let's hear what happens when all
Hi,
of the
I'm the
voice
nerd
actors
one.
are communicating with each other. Josh, can you jump to that little bit? It might be a little bit of scrubbing. Yeah, here we go.
Give us a bit of music.
Oh no, no.
Crank it.
No.
They're not even harmonizing.
They have the same voice. They're just singing one
No.
tone.
Is this masturbating?
A little
In
bit.
a way, yeah.
Are they making their own music videos?
So I don't know how much I influence what happens in this cutscene, but one of them's like, I'm a DJ. The other one's like, guitar's the way to go. Another one's like, I'm more into something else, piano or something. And they're like, what instrument should we play? And it's like, I'll go and print a guitar. And so I went and printed an acoustic guitar
What
on the
memories did you print
fabricator.
into that guitar?
And then they were like, everyone was having a conversation about what life is. And so all of these pieces of dialogue are based on like options that I chose. So there's infinite variations of this fucking song with different versions of Yarn.
Oh my god.
It's just like,
Oh.
and it's cringe as hell.
Oh yeah, it's dorky.
But
kinda
it's
love it, though.
but it lifts the spirits. I tell you what, everyone's smiling.
Where else could
once
you
I get
do
to the
something
next
this
act.
cringy, but on your own space station with just versions of yourself? It's basically glorified singing in the mirror.
Yeah.
I love it. I relate
Hate
to
it.
it.
Just the thought of like 4 of me singing together for pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should be kissing.
Oh man,
There are other
they
things you
should
can
be
do for
fucking.
pleasure.
They really, this should
What are
finish
they
just
doing?
strip off and get in the pile, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alters is fucking cool.
That's very cool.
I really think there's going to be some like conversation about it for a couple of months at least. And
There's
I
just-
don't know that it's game of the year with like such a strong year, but it is a contender for me in how engaging and interesting a take it is.
Sure. The fact that like half of the gameplay is something you kind of glossed over and said was pretty linear and whatever does give me cause for concern a little bit.
Yeah, I
what I
guess
mean?
like I don't know how to address those concerns other than saying I didn't know what to expect of this game going into it, but because I knew there was kind of some of the Fallout sheltery stuff, and that would require resource management, but the balance of it is really solid. And I was like, am I going to be going and mining 1 million ore? The answer is no. You get just enough to survive and to keep moving. And so you kind of just like are constantly resetting as opposed to amassing infinite resources and building storage that is just effectively unlimited and building up a house for yourself in the nicest
Satisfactory
the nicest
or
spot.
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like it's so not about that, which I think is actually I was surprised by and am enjoying.
It was a really lofty sort of blueprint for a game when they first announced it, and I was a bit concerned that I was like, is this actually going to pay off? And maybe just in the way you've expressed what you've enjoyed from it, it does feel like it at least gives that illusion of, or what it can do about multiple characters, so much variables in it. I'm like, that's super impressive to even get you that far into that kind of idea of what a game could be with.
And if nothing more, I like seeing games that have this kind of, funding and investment in it that aren't like combat focused.
Yeah.
Or like just doing the same old stuff. So I do respect like the mixing of genres, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, you're killing those orbs, let's just be clear.
I'm kissing myself. So,
And you're kissing yourself, so.
win-win.